All right, so hello and welcome to Math 126, Applied Statistics for the Winter 2018 session. My name is Mike Deal, and I'll be your instructor through this course. It's a sort of fast, a very quick course in that the January semester is only about 2 weeks, or I guess a little more than 2 weeks in length. So hopefully you're watching this video sometime before the class actually starts, so that you're maybe able to get a jump start on the material, at least spread it out a little bit more than the 2 weeks that the semester, 2.5 weeks that the semester actually runs. But anyway, so this video is an introduction to getting you set up with the course, the various places to look for things, the purchasing of the ebook for the course, and sort of all those good things, and going over the syllabus and Canvas page as well. So what you see in front of us right now is the Canvas page for our course, and yours should hopefully look something like this. And everything for the course is already on here, so in theory you can start now and keep and do things at your own pace. There are due dates for things on here, so obviously you have to complete things by those due dates, but you can certainly work ahead. In fact, this will be greatly encouraged that you work ahead, so that, again, you might be able to spread the material out over more than 2.5 weeks or so. Anyway, but this is our Canvas page. Hopefully this isn't your first course, online course, or your first encounter with Canvas anyway. The material is organized into modules. So if your screen, when you go into our page, doesn't already look like this, just click on modules over here on the left, and it'll turn into this screen. As you can see, everything is sort of organized. I guess I labeled things week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. Obviously, that doesn't quite make sense for us since we only have 2 weeks of material. So instead, I might call these unit 1, unit 2, and so on, and so forth like that. So don't pay as much of attention to the term week, but unit 1, unit 2, and so on. Each unit, maybe I'll go to a more typical one like the second unit here, has roughly speaking the same items. There'll be kind of an announcement thing. To be honest, this is mostly just these are mostly just things I'm going to probably send you in an email anyway, but just have, basically, so now we're into this topic and whatever, just some general advice, I guess. But the main things that you'll want are listed below, which are going to be video lectures. So when you click on this, you'll get links to YouTube videos that I've recorded that are, similar to this one, that will teach you all the material you need for that topic. So that's there. You'll also see slides. So the video lectures are of me, voicing over PowerPoint slides basically, and so the slides themselves I posted here just in case you want them. You don't really need to click on that unless you personally want to just have the PowerPoint slides for you to take notes on or whatever it is you might want to do with them. And then the third thing that you see in each unit is a homework assignment. The homework will be completed, though, in a separate place, so you won't be completing the homework here in Canvas. So I'll go over that when I go over the syllabus. But basically everything is in here that you should need. And this is sort of where everything will eventually end up, and grades and all of that will be here in Canvas eventually. The exams, which there will be a midterm and a final, you will take in Canvas. So the midterm exam is here, and the final exam is here. So these are actual Canvas exams or Canvas quizzes. And so those you will take here, but obviously more details about those as we encounter them. So that's the rundown, at least, of the Canvas page. Let me flip over to, so the first week or the first unit is here, and this has the syllabus, which I'm going to go over now in just a second. The other important thing that this has is a link here to a PDF, which contains all the information about how you register for the ebook and the online homework component. So when you click on the second link here, that's what the step-by-step, very easy to follow directions for how to purchase the book and get the right access code and all that other good stuff. It's instant, so like it's an online book, so you don't need to have bought this, days or weeks in advance. As soon as you register and put in, credit card information, you have, I think, pretty much instant access to everything you need. So, right. So let me, so either click on this syllabus if you want to follow along with me, or just sort of watch. I already opened it in a separate tab here. So this is the syllabus for the course. The dates for the course are here. Officially, it starts on January 3rd and runs through January 19th, which is about, I guess that would be about 16 or 17 days. I think I have due dates that are a little bit extended beyond that, just to give us a little bit of time to do the final exam, but basically 2.5 weeks. This is me. I do have I'm a full-time math professor here at Endicott, and I mostly teach courses in the day division, undergraduate coursework, but I do teach the intersession for the Van Loan School. So I do have a physical office on campus in the Life Science and Business building. In that this is our winter vacation, I'm not really around a whole lot. I will actually be traveling for a good portion of the 2 weeks that this course is actually running. But anyway, there is at least a chance that for some reason we might meet in person. So if that happens, my office is again on campus here. I do have a campus phone number, but I'm not going to really be in, so don't call me and leave me a message, because I probably won't get it until after the spring semester starts. But do send me an email at this email address if you need anything. This is just a general or a usual typical introduction to statistics class. There's no prior assumption of any knowledge about statistics or anything like that. I would say in terms of background for the course, basic math skills and along the lines of algebra, and that's about it. And just some general quantitative reasoning and analytic thinking is really pretty much the only background that you need, which I say kind of sheepishly, or I say that innocently. Sometimes that can be very difficult. But at least in terms of formal things or official, you need to have known X, Y, Z. There isn't much. So, but the topics we cover are listed here in an outline, which is pretty typical for the topics that you cover in an Intro to Statistics course. Most of you are taking this probably because your degree or your major requires you to. But I will say, just to not make it sound like a total drag, that this course and the types of things we learn in this course are a good foundation for any sort of research-based either coursework or actual work, and also for senior thesis. The math that we're going to learn and the strategies, I guess, that we're going to learn and the techniques we're going to learn are useful in analyzing data, for real. So, which is not something you're necessarily going to do every day, but if you are in certain fields, or again for large projects, especially like a thesis project, you may, in fact, maybe you're even likely to have to analyze the data. And so we'll at least learn the background for that. Some majors have a research methods course that is separate, that kind of builds on this idea, or on the ideas that we'll present. So anyway, so that's the topical outline, and here's some things that I hope you learn, I guess, in general from the course. So as I mentioned, the textbook is an ebook. This is the actual title of the book, Elementary Statistics Picturing the World. But like I said, I'm going to give you, I'll flip over to show you the interface for the textbook and for the website for homework, which is called My Stat Lab. So this My Stat Lab is the online course management site that is going to be where you go to complete all of the homework assignments, and that's also where you will have access to the ebook, and so that's where you'll be able to read the ebook if you need to. These are bundled together, and I believe the cost is about $100 for the package, which isn't too bad. Hopefully, courses it's way more than $100 for the course, so hopefully that's not too bad. We won't use the ebook all that much. To be honest, it's mostly we're using this in order to have access to the online homework problems. But just buying that versus buying that plus the ebook is like $1 difference. So, you might as well have the ebook bundled in. So I'll refer you to the handout that's on Canvas that I showed you a minute ago, and we will flip over to this when I'm finished with the syllabus, just so I can show you what this is all about. So other things or other materials you probably will want, why that keeps coming up there, you will need to have access to Microsoft Excel. So statistics are a real pain to do by hand, or even by hand with a calculator is not great because there's an awful lot of computation involved. And so you really do need some sort of package to be able to do this computing without having to, be there all day doing additions and subtractions and divisions and things like that. So since Microsoft Excel is sort of the most broad or most common product that most of you should hopefully have on a laptop or a computer at home or at work or something like that, you should have access to it, regular access to it for this course. If you don't currently, I would suggest buying it. Again, it's, I think, maybe just an Excel license alone, probably, again, about $100. If you're going to try to go without, you can usually find Excel on library computers. So certainly all of the machines, all of the computers on campus here have Excel on them, or even just at your local library or other places, you may be able to find it. Bear in mind, though, that you will obviously need to be able to access it for all of your homeworks and for your exams, which are timed. So it may be as good, if you don't already have Excel, to just go ahead and purchase it. So any version is fine. So if you have a Mac, if you have a Windows based machine, it doesn't matter. Whatever version you have, and even if you have an older version of Excel from 5-6 years ago, that's fine. It will have. We're not going to use it to its full capacity anyway. So whatever you've got, you can use. Aside from Excel, you might want just a calculator, or just a regular basic calculator. You don't need a fancy one, but just, it might be handy to have that to do some simple side computations. And I do think it's important to have just a regular old notebook or paper of some sort to be able to take notes. The lectures, as I mentioned, are videos of me teaching you like I would teach a regular class, or an in-person class. And I think it's tempting, I know, when, it's to sit there and just watch me or listen to me. I mean, that's good to do that. But I'm a pretty firm believer that unless you're doing something while you're watching me or listening to me, you're not really processing and you're not really learning. You're just sort of mentally saying, oh, I see what he's doing. I see what he's doing. And maybe, but it'd be much better if you're sort of actively following along. And I think one way to do that is to take notes like you would in a regular class. Now, having said that, you do have the videos and you do have the slides that are in the videos. So you don't have to write down everything I say or anything like that. But I would recommend doing some sort of, even if it's just to do the problems, like the example problems that I'll do in the videos. Even those are probably good to, and you'll see when you watch the videos, it's just me writing on the screen, in ink, and then doing a problem like you would in a typical math class. So those are the kinds of things that, especially that are, I think, useful for you to also be doing. And even if you're feeling like you understand what's going on, you may even pause the video and say, okay, he's about to do this example. Let me pause him and let me try it. And then I'll play the video and see if, I got the same thing that he did. So anyway, but oh, and I should say, right, so the videos that you'll watch are on Canvas. So those are these videos that I referred you to. They're here, posted with each unit. There are videos when you get into the ebook. There are videos that are posted there as well. Now, those are made by the textbook company. And obviously, it's fine to watch those if you want. I'll just say there's no expectation that you have watched them. But sure, hey, the more information, the better. So I will say, let me take this opportunity to say that in the ebook and even in my Stat Lab, which is our online homework system, there's a lot of extra stuff. And, this is mostly in place for people who are running a course and they basically don't want to do any work. And they're mostly just going to say, okay, all of the stuff that comes with the book, just do all that. But, I've taught this course in this format, probably about a dozen times, and have boiled it down to just sort of what you need to know rather than saying, do everything that's online and do, So my point is, it's fine if you want to do extra stuff and poke around and do extra. There's extra assignments in my Stat Lab, which I'll show you when we go over there. And there's extra videos, reading. There's all kinds of extra stuff, and that's all fine to do if you want. But there's no expectation that you'll have done those things. Okay, the only expectation is that you complete the homework assignments that I've actually assigned to you over in my Stat Lab. And again, I'll show you where those are. Okay, your grade, of course, is important. So we will have a midterm and a final. So there'll be 2 exams that in total are 3/4 of your grade, and the homework will make up the other quarter. So it's a pretty easy formula to do. The Canvas page has these formulas built in. So as grades start to appear in Canvas, your course grade will be updated appropriately. So the homework assignments are posted in my Stat Lab. I'll show you where those are in a minute. The questions, it's an online homework system, so the questions are generally they're multiple choice kinds of things, true, false, or fill in the blanks. A lot of them are fill in the blanks, and by that, it's generally going to ask you for a number. It's going to say, so here's a big problem, compute whatever, and then the answer is 7 or something like that. So you're going to type in the number 7. So one good thing, though, about this system and any online homework system is that you do get some feedback. Now, I got to be honest, sometimes the feedback is not necessarily helpful. In other words, it'll try to give you a hint, which sometimes is a little more confusing than it's worth. So take that with a grain of salt. But the one good thing about our system is that generally for most questions, it immediately gives you some feedback and then a chance to guess again. And sometimes it may even give you like 2 extra chances before it says, sort of final answer or something like that. This is designed to help you, of course, be able to have more than one chance. I will say that even if you go through a problem and say, okay, I think the answer is 7, no, okay, the answer is 9, no, the answer is 10, no. If it eventually says, okay, you're all done, it'll tell you what the answer is and maybe some advice about how it computed that. But you always have the option of selecting what it will appear in each problem, which is there's a link at the bottom of each one. I think it's usually in the lower right corner that lets you request a similar problem. Now, what that does is it lets you basically redo that entire problem from the beginning again, usually just basically with different numbers so that you can't cheat, and still get credit. So I have the system set up that you can do this as many times as you want. In other words, you can do every problem, 100 times if you really want to. necessarily do it 100 times, but you can certainly redo problems and keep trying them until you get them right. Which I think for an online class where we're never going to see each other in person, I think that's helpful to get the extra chances and extra attention that you might need for those problems that are giving you issues. What I will say though is that be a little bit careful to not abuse this. And I gotta say, the main reason why, if people do badly in this class, the main reason why they do, I think, is because they either don't do the homework at all, or they don't do it, they don't put a good effort into it, or they do the homework and they say, okay, I'm going to try this problem, and they get it wrong, and they just keep trying random things until they get the problem right. That's a terrible idea, because on the exams, which make up most of your grade in this class, you will have one chance for every question. And so if you're relying on having to try 3 or 4 things every time in order to get a right answer, that isn't really learning. That's you just trying to figure out a way to maximize your homework points, which again add up to very little. And so unfortunately, I do always have some students every semester who have, like 100% homework average and fail every exam, or fail both of the exams, which means they still will fail the course. So, and I always say to them, how is it you're getting 100 on homeworks? And the answer is they're not really trying them. I mean, they're trying, they're doing things, but they're cheating themselves out of the learning process, or the learning component of doing homework, which is that you should be, if you get a problem wrong, go back to the notes, go back to the examples I did, spend 10, 20, 30 minutes reviewing the material, and then try the problem again. Don't just keep trying the problem and say, oh, it probably wasn't this method, it was this other thing that we did. Oh, okay, I'll just do that. And then it works, and you say, great, awesome, I'm on to the next one. Again, it's a very dangerous thing to do, because you probably didn't stop and make a note of, well, how is it that I'm supposed to know that it was method B versus method A? And in the homework, it doesn't matter, because you can just try them both and still get points. But on the exam, that's not going to work. So just my advice to you, especially if you've never done online homework with, sort of multiple chances and things like that, is use it, take advantage of the opportunity to redo problems, but make sure that whenever you get a problem wrong and eventually get it right, that you really explain to yourself or ask me to help you understand why the wrong answers you got were wrong and why the right answer you got is right. And that's how I think you'll have the best success for saying that your homework grade is somewhat at least similar to your exam grade. In general, people do worse on the exams than the homework, again, unless you're just sort of blowing off the homework and not doing it at all. But it's typical for people to have a very high homework average and a lower exam average, which, of course, as you can tell, means your course grade will almost certainly be lower, in some cases significantly lower, than your homework average. So don't let that prop you up and feel like I'm awesome, I'm getting 100 on all the homeworks. If you fully understand the homework and fully understand all the problems, then you should get good. You should still get good grades on the exams. But again, don't sort of abuse this opportunity. So, okay, enough of that. Sorry to be all ranty about that, but that's just probably the most common thing that I've seen in this course, is people kind of getting a false sense of security from that. So, okay, what else? There isn't much more to say. The homework assignments do all have due dates, and you do need to complete them by the due dates. There will be the system deducts points for every day that the assignment is late. I believe it's a severe penalty, and especially since we're going to have assignments due almost every other day or so, it's just unacceptable to fall behind due dates. So don't turn things in late. Technology can be fickle, as you probably know, and if you have a crash, if you're working on it, the night that it is due and you have a crash or an internet outage or something like that, these will not get you any extension on the assignment. You have to take it upon yourself to make sure you leave yourself plenty of time to complete the work by the due date. Exams will be administered through Canvas. They will have similar, format to homework problems, but rather than the book creating them, I will be making the problems. So in reality, they're probably more similar to the examples or problems that we do during the in the lectures. So I'll say this when we get closer to the exam, or I think I posted some advice on Canvas about studying. I think even in an online exam, where you can obviously use your notes, because I can't really stop you from using your notes, I recommend that people study pretty much the same as they would study for a traditional closed notes in-person exam. Because I think the issue, again, one more issue that happens with people is they go to start the exam, which is timed, and realize that they don't actually know the material. And so they go and say, oh, I got to watch that video about whatever, or I got to go look up how to do whatever. And you end up sort of going down a rabbit hole, and you waste a lot of time during a timed exam learning the material. So my advice is study just like you would study for a traditional paper and pencil closed notes exam. You should more or less have all of the notes memorized, or the material memorized or familiar. And I would recommend making almost like a cheat sheet, of maybe the 20 most important things or formulas or whatever, so you can sort of have a quick reference, just sort of off to the side as you're doing the exam. So okay, so that's the bit about exams. What else? And that's about it. This is an intense course. I will emphasize that it's 15 weeks of sort of traditional material crammed into 2.5 weeks. So you will have to work on this class every day, unless you have the ability to sort of spread this out and dedicate the entire weekends. We only have 2 weekends during the course of our semester, so it's a lot of work. If you're busy with a lot of other things, I'll just say you may reconsider whether this is the right time and moment to be taking a class like this. I do know that people typically don't love math, and that for maybe a bunch of you maybe would say that math is anxiety inducing and et cetera, et cetera. I would encourage you to try to put those negative thoughts out of your head, because the only thing that that's going to do is make you feel better about struggling, and that's just going to make you struggle more, in my opinion. So first of all, you're in this, if you're staying in this class anyway, you're in this class for the duration. So try not to let yourself get wrapped up with, well, I'm just really bad at math, so I'm going to be bad at this, because it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there's that. But if you do have a very busy schedule during the life of this course, it may not be the right time to take this. I know this class is offered in the more traditional 8-week format online almost every semester. So anyway, if you're having concerns about that, talk to your advisor or send an email to your advisor and Van Loan to just see what to see if this is the right time for you to be taking the class. I think that it's reasonable if you can dedicate time every day and a lot of time on weekends. You can complete the work and to your satisfaction. It is a difficult, I guess it can be a difficult class for some people. It certainly is a class that generally people do fail. Not obviously the majority of people, but in a class of our size, which I think is around 15 or 16 people, I typically at least a couple of people will end up withdrawing and maybe another couple people failing. So I just throw that out there at the beginning, not to freak anybody out, but just to make you aware that it's the type of class that can be difficult in this format. So, and if you get extended time or other accommodations, please let me know, and we can I can easily set that up in Canvas. So, all right. So that's the big long speech about the syllabus. Close that. So there isn't much more to say. I'll just leave you. The last thing I wanted to do is just say, again, if you click on this link here in Canvas, you'll get a PDF that describes exactly how to register for My Stat Lab. And My Stat Lab is where, again, you'll do all of your homework and where you have access to the ebook. So let me click on, so if you click on this, you'll get the instructions. And the website looks like this. So the My Stat Lab website, your version should look pretty similar to this. Yours might look a little different as a student as compared to an instructor. But so there's a lot of stuff, right? And of course, my goodness, I mean, if I could, I would turn off most of this stuff because most of this is not anything you ever need to even be worried about. The things you need to worry about are mostly here. So if you click on homework, or I think the links are here as well, but if you click on homework, this will take you to, hopefully, a list of all of the homework assignments for our course. There are only 6, or there are 6. I don't know if that feels like a lot or not a lot. The due dates are all here, as you can see. And when you click on an assignment, maybe I'll just click on the second one, for example. If you click on this, you'll see the problems are here. And you can obviously start anywhere you want. Unless you're a weird person, you probably maybe will start with number 1. And when you click on a question, I'm going to be a weird person for a minute and just click on a random question, like 10. You'll get a little window like this that pops up. And there's a question, obviously, here. And it's asking you to answer. Sometimes, obviously, there's more than one part or there's more than one option. And I just wanted to sort of show you what I meant by the multiple guesses. So this says there's these 7 numbers, and I guess I'm supposed to compute the mean score, which maybe you already know. That means compute the average of these numbers. So 2 things. One, I will tell you that if you click on if you have a data list, now this isn't tragic. You could probably enter these into a calculator or Excel, and it wouldn't be that bad. But on many of these, there's a link that you can click on that will ask you, do you want to open this data sheet in Excel? How nice is that, right? So if you just clicked on that, I won't click on it, but it'll open Excel with these numbers already listed in there. So there's some things that are nice that will make your life easier. So I probably do that, and I compute the average of those numbers. And when I think I have my answer, I'm going to enter it here. I'm going to hopefully get this wrong, so let me make sure I don't guess it correctly. So I'll say 12. Rounding is important, and they will usually clarify to what extent do you need to round. So this says round to 1 decimal. So let's say maybe I should say, when I entered this in a calculator or in Excel, let's say I got 12.66, then I might type 12.7 as my answer. And then if I say check answer, if it's right, it's going to tell me, congratulations, you got it right. If it's wrong, which I think this is, you're going to see that it says, sorry, this isn't right, and it's going to give you some advice. In this case, it's basically just reminding you of how to do the mean. So I say, okay, and it's going to let me immediately try again. So I'm going to say, oh, okay, that's right, I shouldn't have done that. It's 11.7. Okay, check. And then I still got it wrong because I'm still not actually doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I maybe will try one more time and say, oh, maybe it's 10.7. Okay, so I'm being a bad student now by just guessing random numbers. But I wanted to show you that I think it's usually after the 3rd guess, if it's not a multiple choice question anyway, after the 3rd guess, it'll say final check down here in the corner. Now, if I get this wrong, which I think this is still wrong, it's going to tell me the right answer, and it's going to move me on, I think. Well, let me hit it. So, okay, right. So it says, sorry, this is wrong. You answered this, but the correct answer is this. Sometimes there's a little more of an explanation if it's a more complicated question. So what should you do if you're in this situation? Obviously, I have to hit OK. It moves, I think it actually automatically, did it? Oh, no. Oh, there was a second part to the question. Okay, so a lot of the questions, oh yeah, this has a bunch of parts. So it moved me on to the next part. Now, if you want to say, but I got this wrong, and that's what the little red thing means. If you want to say, you know what, I want to go back and redo this because I didn't get it right, you can. I think the easiest way to do this is to maybe, this has a bunch of parts. So you can either finish, you can sort of answer the parts, and then come back and redo the whole problem. But if you want, you can just sort of stop. I mean, I'll just close. I don't need to save this because I got everything wrong. And as you can see on the list here, as I try these problems, the ones that I haven't tried, there's nothing. The ones I've gotten wrong have a big red X next to it, so I can always come back here and say, okay, let me click on that again. And, oh, this is still my old wrong answer. Oh, okay, all right. So I guess it's going to make me finish, or at least try the rest of this problem. So let me just finish this. Oh, okay, I accidentally got, all right. Oh, okay, I have to do the other parts. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got that one wrong too. I'm officially terrible. Okay. Okay, maybe I can get this one right. I think 9.6. Okay, so when you okay there. So when you finish the problem, you can go to the next problem. Oh, not done yet. Oh, sorry. There's one more question here. Probably something like that. Okay. Okay. So when I'm finally done with the question, now it's going to move me on to the next question. Okay. So what happens if I say, but I didn't, and I didn't do very well in that question. I only got 2/3 out of the 1 point that it was worth. If you go back, or if you close, you could say, all right, I could say, let me save what I've done so far. So if I hit save, that's fine. Then back here again on the list here, it's saying, oh, question 10, you got some of it right and some of it wrong is what that means. And I got 0.67 out of the 1 point. So if I want to click back on this, it's going to let me request a similar question. So this was what I was trying to get to. And what that's going to basically do is it's going to pull up another version of this entire question. And it's going to let me redo the whole thing. You can't just redo a part of a question, so that's a little bit of a drag, I guess. But notice I got this part wrong because it's red. This part I got right. This part I got wrong, and I think I got the other ones right eventually. So if I ask for a similar question, it's going to let me redo this whole thing. So if I hit that, whoops, it gives me a new one. Now I think it's actually the same exact question, just with different numbers. Now I'm not going to complete this, but if I now redo this whole question and I get all of it right or more of it right than I got before, it'll give me full credit. So right now I've only gotten a 0.67 out of the, oh, here it says, right, 0.67 out of the 1 point for this question. But if I redo this and get all 6 parts right, it'll say now you have 1 point out of 1 point, which means I got it all correct. Okay? So it's pretty simple. Most of the time, sorry, I picked a bad example that has a bunch of parts, but usually the questions only have 1 or 2 parts. But as long as you save every time when you're finished, I think even if you try to close and don't save, it'll say, do you want to save or something like that. So just hit save. Oh, okay. And this, okay. Right. So obviously if you do worse, you're going to probably say save my best score, save my 0.67 out of 1. And you can do that for all the questions. Now, hopefully you're obviously not getting most of them wrong, like I did, and that you're mostly just sort of knocking these out and that you don't need to go back and redo. But that option is there for you if you want. Okay, so that's the homework tab. Like I said, all 6 assignments are here. So you can do these whenever, as soon as you've sort of finished with the lesson, you can come right in here and do the homework. The only other thing in here, you probably have something grade-ish that you can do to see your scores, but your scores will eventually be migrated over to Canvas anyway, so I don't think you have to click on that too often. The only other thing that you might get from here is access to the access to the ebook. As far as I know, this is the only way to get access to the ebook. So if you want to read in the ebook, if you click on chapter contents, I don't know why they don't just say ebook, but if you click on chapter contents, then obviously here you see the chapters. So if I want chapter 1, chapter 1. This is what I mean when I say, look at all of this stuff. I mean, there's lots of stuff here. Most of this you don't need to do. Again, doing quizzes, tests, none of this is stuff for our class. This is just stuff that was built into the book. You're welcome to click on this and say, oh, hey, you have some quizzes? Sure, I'll try them. But you don't have to. Okay, and again, anything you need aside from the homework that I showed you a few minutes ago, that's all you have to do. If you want, so if you just want the book, right, the access to the ebook, just click on whichever section. So if I click on section 1.1, you again have options. This is a video that the textbook company has made about the section. Again, you're welcome to watch that if you want, but it's not required. If you just want the book, click on this second link, and it'll basically pull up like a PDF of sorts of the chapter, or in this case, of the section. So if you want to read section 1.1, click on here, and you'll get section 1.1 that you can just read and scroll through. I think if I click on it, it doesn't work, but yours should hopefully work. I haven't actually, of course, bought the book because I'm the instructor, so that's why mine says that, but yours should work. So and then if you want section 2, click here. Section 3, click here. Again, there's lots of other things here. There's a test, there's quizzes, there's all kinds of stuff, which if you want to do, there's even activities you can do. None of that is required, but that's how you get access to the ebook. So again, it's under back to the main menu here. The chapter contents is how you get to the chapters, and again, homework that's here. This is our homework that you do have to complete. Okay, that's pretty much all from my stat lab that you should need. I will say the one last thing I'll say while I'm on my stat lab and the ebook is that the ebook doesn't do Excel, or it does a little bit, but it's not written for a class that's taught in Excel. And so the problem is that it's written for a class where you're going to use basically a calculator to do all of the computations. And so we're going to end up doing the same things, but just much more quickly and easily in Excel. So sometimes, I mean, I hate to say this, but poking around the book, especially for some of the later chapters, it's going to look a lot more complicated than what we do. And the basic reason for that is that we're going to be using Excel, which does an awful lot of nice things for us for free. So that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But just be aware that, beyond the first chapter or two, the material in the ebook is probably going to look a little foreign compared to what we do in the videos. Now, I promise I've shown you everything you need to know how to do the homework and everything in these lecture videos. Okay, with the exception of week 1, or of unit 1. Unit 1 is just an introduction. So if you click on this character here, this is your assignment for the first week. So this is the intro video that you are watching right now. And then below this, it says, please watch this video, blah, 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 and do the chapter and read chapter 1, which is sections 1.1, 2, and 3 in the ebook. So I will actually ask you to read the ebook for chapter 1 only. And then in my stat lab, do the first homework assignment. And I do have a due date of the 4th. So the first assignment is due on January 4th. And as you can see, they're due roughly every few days. We have an exam. After the first 3 units, we'll have an exam, and then the second 3 units, and then we'll have our final after that. So, but you can start that, and you can do this right now, and you can do basically all of these things. You don't really have to wait to do stuff. You can just say, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and start the material, watch the videos, complete the homework, and you can move right on to the next one and the next one. And as soon as you do the first 3 units, you're ready for the midterm, and you can click on here and take the midterm exam if you want, stuff like that. So you can move ahead as fast as you want. And again, I'd strongly recommend that you don't wait until January 3rd or something like that to start this class. I recommend you start now, as soon as you're finished watching this video. If you can do maybe even week 1, 2, and 3, and maybe even take the midterm, by the time class actually starts, that'll give you 2.5 weeks, which is the actual duration of the class, to do unit 4, 5, and 6 is how I might sort of more so label them, which I think is a reasonable pace. The second half of the course is much harder than the first half, so it might be a good idea to just try to knock out this sort of easier material before the new year, so that you have basically the 2 or 3 weeks in January to do the second half of the course, which starts here. But that's just my advice. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want to, but there's just a lot more in the second half. So All right, so I think that's it for the intro video, which is way longer than it probably needed to be. So sorry about that. So feel free to again get started. If you have any questions throughout the course, email me, and good luck to you.